I speak to high achieving women with super traits every single day. And there's this collective want to let it all go, to relax, to be led, to surrender. And I wanted that too. When you've overfunctioned, when you've girl bossed so hard that you are the crusty wife, the point person, the one that everyone calls to fix their problems, it's exhausting. And it leads to this special kind of resentment and this special kind of being unfulfilled and discontent that when your life looks so good on the outside and something's missing because our super traits get us the career success, the outward success. We're great at checking the boxes. But internally, something's off. Something is very, very off. We want to let somebody else take the reins, let someone lead. We want to surrender. We just crave that so deeply to let it all go, but we can't. I want to talk about the kind of control that no one names because it doesn't look like control. It looks like competence. It looks like kindness. It looks like peacekeeping. It looks like being altruistic, but it comes from fear. It comes from overdeveloped super traits that starve us from the connection, the intimacy, the health that we need. This is actually, it's death in slow motion. It's killing us in slow motion. So underneath all of this overfunctioning is exhaustion. There's a quiet panic. There is a nervous system that learned at a very young age, if I stay calm, outwardly calm, if I manage, if I fix, if I fawn, if I worry about everyone else and make sure that their needs are met, then maybe I'll finally feel safe. Maybe somebody will finally choose me. Maybe they won't leave. If responsibility is one of your super traits, if tolerance, if forgiveness, if loyalty, this is where this all manifests into your real life. But especially responsibility, because we feel responsible for everyone else's feelings, everyone else's well-being, but there's fear underneath. There's a fear of if I don't fix it for them, they will leave. If you grew up around chaos, a parent with unpredictable moods, and maybe it wasn't even chaos, it was just pure emotional unavailability in your home, or a constant sense that you had to achieve to feel love, very common for women with super traits. And if you haven't taken my super trait quiz, take 3 or 4 minutes. It's free. Head to the show notes, figure out what your super traits are. You learned early. You learned at a young age that control is control equals safety. And it comes from pre-verbal trauma, that love was found outside of us. It was in other people's acceptance of us and their validation of our feelings. We learned that if we share our feelings or show how we feel, then we will lose love. Maybe it would hurt worse. So we pretended that we didn't have them and we learned to earn and achieve and please. But that's not what true connection feels like. And this is what I teach women in the Super Trait Society to overcome. I'm Dr. Jordan Wiggins, and I help high-achieving women with super traits rebuild their lives after extractive love, divorce, betrayal, decades of overgiving using the pleasure-centered method. Most women try to fix their relationships. My work isn't about fixing, forcing intimacy, communicating better. It's about rewiring what made you believe that depletion was love in the first place. Women like us, women with super traits, we've been called codependent, people pleasers, overfunctioners. We've been told that we're too much, when in reality, we've simply never been met. This podcast gives you the language for what you've been living, why it's felt so hard, and how to build a life and relationships rooted in desire, safety, power. If you're a high-functioning woman exhausted from holding it all together, you're in the right place. Maybe you've chosen to stay, but you're ready to stop suffering. Maybe you're preparing to leave, but with your power intact. Maybe you've already left, but those same old patterns keep showing up. This is where we decode your super traits. We name the invisible power dynamics that have been draining you. We rewire your nervous system so love, intimacy, and desire can become nourishing again. Because you don't need better communication. You don't need to work harder at being loved, heard, supported. You need the pleasure-centered method. A new map back to yourself, your power, and your erotic aliveness. We don't live in a world where pleasure alone is enough anymore. We can't play checkers while everyone else is playing chess. And that is what women with super traits have been taught to do. The women I work with know this. You can't sustain pleasure if you don't have power. Power to name your truth and desires. Power to stop managing everyone else's comfort. Power to stay open without abandoning yourself. The world has changed, and women with super traits, empathy, loyalty, responsibility, forgiveness, hard work, are waking up to how those same traits that made them successful have also kept us small. You were rewarded for being the steady one, the capable one, the woman who doesn't ask for much. But that praise comes at a cost. Your pleasure, your health, your erotic aliveness. The Super Trait Society is your initiation into the next era of feminine leadership, the house of pleasure and power, a mentorship for women ready to move from overfunctioning to erotic command. Inside this 6-month container, you'll learn the sacred art of pleasure, power, and polarity, the difference between asking and telling, the difference between managing and directing, the difference between being the good girl and becoming the woman whose presence changes the room, the kind that makes you magnetic in bed, in business, and in life. This high-touch mentorship includes a 3-day live in-person training, 2 full-day virtual workshops, a monthly live group coaching call led by me, monthly real-life experiments and assignments. This is not a passive course. This is for women ready to take action. You'll practice integrating both directional and receptive power, dominance, and surrender from a trauma-informed, pleasure-centered foundation. This is where the women who've survived overgiving, caretaking, coercion, confusion, reclaim their erotic authority, emotional command, and feminine sovereignty. If you know that the next season of your life requires both pleasure and power, I invite you to fill out the application and join the Super Trait Society. There are 10 spots available. Find the link in the show notes and apply. We will get on a 30-minute call to determine if this is the right fit for you. You will never have to sacrifice pleasure for partnership or power ever again. Being right kept you from being blamed. Fixing kept the family from falling apart. You got to keep love, managing things, making sure everyone else needs were met. Everyone was happy. Nobody exploded. You learned to walk on eggshells. And it worked. And that is what makes super traits so sneaky. And we know this in every other area of life, but somehow we fuck it up when it comes to sex and love and intimate relationships that are pressing on these wounds, pressing on this pre-verbal trauma. As high-functioning women with super traits, we are rewarded for control. We were called organized, mature for our age, responsible, loyal. And as adults, there's a loneliness, a discontentment, underlying anxiety at all times. Our hypervigilant parts, our management parts are on all the time. We don't know how to turn them off. We struggle to be present. And that is what I thought. That anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure because We are in that hypervigilant state that learning to turn our pleasure centers back on, learning to regulate our nervous systems, that was the work. And it turns out it is. It turns out that that's the healing. It's part of the healing. It expedites the healing. But we cannot learn that without an understanding of power and control, because otherwise, women with super traits, we are playing checkers when everyone around us is playing chess. And as superwomen, we have this special kind of control. We become so over-functioning, so irreplaceable, that even when we are snippy, crusty, cunty, no one wants to leave because we make their lives so good. But the dynamic is off and you know it. With your partner, with your kids, there's this deep part of you that you almost don't even want to name, that they're around because we make it so good. So I have super women they overgive to their adult children, and they have relationships with their adult children, but they're strained because the power dynamic is off. They're still on the tit. They're not around because they want to be. There's no genuine sense of relationship there. They're around because they're overgiven to. And it is the same with a lot of my clients' partners. So they are the primary earner. They go out and they slay and they kill it every day. They're respected in their careers. And their partner is home managing addiction. Their partner is at home gaming all day, golfing all day. And am I saying that if the woman is the breadwinner, that they cannot have a happy and fulfilling marriage? That is not at all what I'm saying, but I'm saying that the power dynamics need to be addressed. Marriage is naturally extractive for women, unless you are with a feminist man that sees you as an equal and contributes equal. Marriage benefits men more than women. And when you join the Super Trait Society and the Super Trait Academy, you get my marriage benefit imbalance training. It's going to blow your mind. It's going to answer so many questions that you didn't know you have and bust up a whole bunch of patterns that you've been dancing around. It's going to piss you off, but it is going to set you free. The truth will set you free. And you can create a pleasure-centered relationship from a foundation that actually works. And if you're single, you get to create this from the start, from the beginning. And it is so fun to date when you understand power dynamics, when you've learned the tools like detachment, discernment, nervous system regulation. So what happens when what we say we want to let go, we want to be led, we want a man, we want the masculine, but our actions are the actual opposite? We know that. We know what an incongruence does. And what happens when the super traits that kept us safe, the super traits that keep us successful, are the traits keeping us disconnected. I want to talk about everyday forms of control for superwomen, for women with super traits. All right, let's get into it. Control doesn't always look like dominance, yelling, making the decision. Sometimes it looks like erasing yourself. Sometimes it looks like caring about somebody else more than you care about yourself. Let's talk about how control hides in women with super traits. Number one, being right. Always needing to prove or teach, even in small things. Fixing. Jumping to solve problems before others even try. Because sitting back, watching somebody that you love struggle feels intolerable. That is a skill that I teach in the Super Trait Society. How to handle you while those around you that you have been carrying for years learn to work through those turbulence, learn to create the muscles required for them to swim on their own. Number three, managing logistics, meals, schedules, finances, childcare, the endless lists and planning that I hold it all so that things don't fall apart. This could even be managing the emotional tone of the relationship, planning the date nights, planning the State of the Union talks with your partner. Number 4, policing your tone, making sure that you are speaking calmly and not triggering anyone's discomfort. Number 5, withholding affections, words, or approval until certain conditions are met. It's over explaining. This is the biggest one. Controlling the narrative so that no one misunderstands you or blames you. Number 7, delegating with strings, handing over a task but micromanaging how it's done. Number 8, performing, controlling how you're perceived by acting one way on the outside and feeling one way on the inside, trying to be the perfect partner, perfect mother, perfect professional. Number 9, emotional overregulation. Okay, we are calm in the face of crisis. We are handling everything and everyone. Probably break down later and cry in the bathroom alone, but we stay calm and cheerful, and everyone else takes from us to emotionally regulate themselves. And number 10 is avoidance, removing ourselves from situations, removing ourselves from intimacy so that we can't get hurt or we can't tolerate our own shame. Avoiding bringing up topics, how we feel are hurt, because we're scared our needs will not be met. When we live this way, our bodies don't rest. Control becomes a woman with super traits love language. And they're those 10 ways that we control that look like love, or we think we're caring for the other person by erasing ourselves from the equation. But that is not intimacy, and it worsens a power dynamic. And I just want to mention that of those 10 things, those are the ways that I see Superwoman control, but I also see our partners can try to control us with some of those as well. So this isn't just we're accepting 100% blame for the situation, but we can only control what we have control over, which is ourselves. But we try to sneaky control other people with those tactics, and it looks like care, but it is not. Control is a woman with super traits love language. And if you know that I think the love languages are bullshit and they are meant to control women. That's another conversation. Ask a superwoman to stop doing the above, and she short circuits. Want to read to you one of my clients' reflections, and I'm getting emotional about it because she sees it and she's stepping into her power, this next level, and switching the dynamics in her marriage is like, shifting the direction of the Titanic, but she's doing it. She said, yeah, it's not a communication problem. It's a choosing to ignore and not listen problem. So she sees, right? If our needs aren't being met, it's not something we're doing wrong. Well, what we are still thinking that asking a different way or using a different communication formula is going to change it. That's our ownership. But she's addressing the power dynamic and saying that was the turning point in our relationship and we're still in the thick of it. I told my husband this relationship will reflect only what you pour into it. I'll reciprocate whatever you do, but you have to make the first move. She's using my tool that I taught her called matching his effort. Okay. And we talked about detachment. We talked about matching effort. She had skills and tools, but she said, for 5 days, I thought I would die. And that's how it feels. And I remember that's how it feels when we're dating and matching effort, when we're in a marriage and we stop doing the overfunctioning. It feels to your nervous system, because this is, like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, this is pre-verbal trauma. Okay, so for 5 days, she thought she would die. He did nothing. He didn't initiate a conversation, scraps for the kids, crumbs for me. He started unraveling, looked to her for help. She held her ground. She said, if you want to be an adult, you need to be an adult and find solutions to your problems. I'm not fixing for you anymore. Day 7, he called the therapist, got support, which is amazing. They're in the beginning stages, but I no longer believe communication is the solution. And she knows that her overfunctioning isn't the solution. And controlling by all of those 10 ways that I just shared with you isn't the solution. So he needed to feel that void. She needed to let him drown. And she needed to have the tools and the skills in herself to be able to watch him do it and sit back and detach. And that's when the change happened. Yes, those 5 days were hell for me. Never felt so alone and so much grief ever. Jordan was amazing and supported me through it. But she's amazing because it's not easy to do. And I've done it and it feels like you're going to die, but you won't, especially if you have the tools. Especially if you have the tools that I teach in the Super Trait Academy. Okay. I am launching this. This is $97 a month. You can cancel at any time with 30 days notice. You are going to get my marriage benefit imbalance training. And every month you are going to get a pleasure-centered relationship module and teaching. We have a live group coaching call. Head to the show notes, check it out. Like, I honestly, to not jump on this offer while it is at this foundational price would be insane. It would literally be insane. And if you need more, apply for the society, the Super Trait Society. And that starts at $497 a month. But let's get on a call. We can figure out how much you need. And you're called for this work. If you want to stop mistaking vigilance for intimacy, if you are confusing peacekeeping with connection, we crave surrender, but we flinch when it's offered because we don't know how to let go of control. Surrender, feeling, intimacy meant danger when we were little, and we need to relearn this. We learn to center our relationships around men and erase ourselves. Our bodies long for that exhale, the moment where we don't have to manage everyone, where we can soften and feel safe when we're surrendered because we have the tools and we know that you've got you and our community has got you. This is where pleasure, this is where power, where fulfillment begins. Control says, I'll make you safe so I can relax, but it never delivers on that promise. Even when people are with us, we know that it's not out of their free will. It's because we managed, we pulled strings behind the scenes, we did stuff for them so they'd have extra space to spend time with us or paid for something. Control and safety are opposites. One is a performance, the other is presence. And what women with super traits need more than anything, the tools and skills to be present with high sensation, pleasure, power, our true power, because we're scared of that too.